Hi guys, welcome back. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about some of the common mistakes that investors make that I see either through talking to them, mentoring them, or actually just reading or writing articles and on social media, people ask questions. So before I get into that in the last episode, I talked about the difference between North and South as an investment areas. So if you've missed that, definitely go back and find out a little bit more about why I'm investing in both areas and what the difference and the trade-off that I find with them. So let's get going with some of the questions that we've collected and scraped from social media and a mixture of different sources that people have texted me as well. So first one, normally, I see one of the most common questions are around how much they've paid for something. So buy too high and not below market value is a massive issue because the way I conduct my business is we're always buying below market value. My motto is always make money on the way in. Never wait for the market to turn or for the market to improve, because that's where people get really stuck on. And imagine if you've done that and you've got a property that you've bought, you've sat on it for too long, it's taken way too long for you to develop, you've taken a bridge on it, and all of a sudden now what you owe on it is more than what it's actually worth. That's the worst position to be in. So the best thing that I can tell you to do is to always make sure that if you are going to buy a £300,000 property, make sure that you have sourced it and paid for at least 200,000, 225,000 for it. And so that means on the way in, you're making money. Now you're going to say, well, how can I buy that? There's multiple ways we buy below market value properties. If you don't understand it, then maybe you need to get in touch with us for me to help you do that, because ultimately I do not buy anything market rate, because that's where problem happens. When the market tanks, the interest rate goes up, your bridging finance runs out, you then end up in massive hot waters. So buy below market value is always the most important start for you to do. The next thing I see quite common is the optimism that people have when it comes to refinancing values. So they buy something and then they say, do you know what, actually, I think it's going to be worth 500,000, when actually the market rate, and when you do all your analysis, it puts it down to about 400,000. So there is it's almost like an optimism bias that investors have. And I think, to be fair to them, that's down to naivety, hope, missold a little bit sometimes as well. I see that quite a bit in HMOs recently in the last kind of 10 years or so. Builders will come in and say, we can convert these 3-bedroom house into a 5-bed, 6-bed ensuite for you for £100,000. So the investor sadly then spends £100,000 on development, £100,000 on the deposit and the SDLT legals. So they're down £200,000, but then the refinance cost actually is almost equal to what they've spent. So here, the common mistake to avoid is to make sure that what you're buying plus the cost of development doesn't end up what you could have bought, I don't know, a year after that you've waited to do this conversion. You could have bought the same thing with no hassle for the same price. So make sure when you are calculating your refinanced value out on entry before you buy it, you're getting the correct valuation and the correct value, because you've done all your due diligence on the costings. Another common mistake, this is really very much specific to title split as well, more so than anything else, is a failure to have your power team in place. So many people come and say, I bought this block, actually I can't refinance it. Well, quite frankly, you can't refinance it because you bought the wrong block. It's made up of studios, the wrong sizes, the wrong EPC. It hasn't got utilities split. There are so many reasons why a block could be wrong that we cover during the course. But most importantly, also, 50% of this is having the right title split specific expert lawyers, brokers, tax advisors, floor plan designers, and anything in between. So if you're going to go into property investment, make sure you have your power team ready. And by power team, I mean the people who actually know their business. They understand how the property investment works, and they are not, to give you a hint, they're not the high street lawyer that's actually doing conveyancing on the side and doing other type of laws. That you've got to get quite specific and specialist, especially if you're doing property strategies like title split. So power team is critical. On top of the power team of the legal and the kind of the paperwork stuff, you've got to also have your power team of builders, plumbers, electricians to be able to help you for your project. So failure to do that is that you are then delaying your project to get started. You sit on a bridge for longer, you then start to lose money. So really make sure before you start, you've got your power team sorted. Another one, when it comes to buying in auctions, legal packs not being reviewed. So one of the things that is absolutely critical, there's a reason why a property is in auction, and you need to find that out. So to do that, you need to work through the legal pack. There are multiple ways you can approach it. So personally, I have a review of the legal pack myself because I've done it for so many years. But I would not advise that to anybody who's coming into it. I would advise getting in touch with a lawyer to actually have a look at the legal pack and pick out any challenges that you may find in the property itself. And don't give them 1 day because they're not going to be happy with that. At least give them 5 or 6 or 7 days before the auctions happens so that they can actually have enough time to prepare you a report and advise you properly whether buying this block or buying this property is feasible and all the challenges that comes with it. But not doing that and skimping on a few £100 of a lawyer reviewing your legal pack can be the cost of tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of pound loss. So make sure that you're not tight on actually spending money on where it needs to be spent. Spend the money on education, spend the money on the right lawyers, brokers, tax advisors, because believe me, they pay out in tens of thousands by getting the right advice, because that's where knowledge is power. So I'll leave it here in terms of the common mistakes that I encounter when on social media or coaching people or people who will book and ask the expert session with me. And if you've got any other questions, drop them in the show notes, DM us, and then we'll make sure that we put the list together for the next lot of recording. But otherwise, go back to some of the episodes we've covered. We've talked in depth about HMO. I've talked in depth about why leveraging and how to best leverage to increase your portfolio. Or also in this episode or in this season, we've talked about the North and the South and the difference between those and investment areas and why I do one versus the other or both at the same time. And we've talked about SDLT and the need to understand the differences with SDLT and the changes and how that impacts our investment strategies. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.